Well, hello and welcome to Plan B Engineering. I'm going to be working on my pond today. In fact, I've been working on my pond every day for what seems like forever. So here's the pond, and if anyone feels like they might be walking into the middle of a movie, you are. What started out as a cleaning project that I do annually on the pond has turned into an interesting do-it-yourself engineering project. So my plan A, was to empty the pond, take the fish out, take the water out, power wash it, put the water in, put the fish in, turn the pump on. So that was plan A. But this is plan B engineering. And so, the fish are still out. Their water's a little murky. But I only have one left because, well, I killed the others. Not on purpose. I'm not like that. And then here's some of the flowers from the pond. So anyway, I've had this problem with this pond for pretty much ever since it was installed, in that water will get behind the liner. And it used to be that the entire pond had nice, big rocks like this lining all the walls. But when the water would get behind the liner, it would push those rocks off into the pond. So I called back the people who installed it many times, and they would pick up the rocks, empty the pond, get the water out from underneath the liner, put the liner back, put the rocks back, and leave. And then come back the next time. So we've done a number of things to try and solve that problem, and as you can see, what I did was I built a retaining wall inside the pond there with some garden landscape bricks. And so now water still gets behind the liner, but it doesn't push those off. They're a lot sturdier. And the other thing we did was, actually the installers came back and did this one, but they put a box underneath the pond, so it's underneath that floor there, and then they've got a tube that runs out up here. You can see the white cover, and if I could get it off, I don't think you can see the water in there, but water will get underneath the liner and it'll go into that box, and then I put this hose in there with this above ground pump, and I just pump it out of the box. So that's worked pretty well. But the other problem, so those are a couple of plan B ideas there. Anyway, this other problem that I have is I keep losing water out of the top. So this is the top waterfall. It's a biofilter, waterfall. So the water comes over that, goes down here into a little small holding pond, and then when that fills up, it goes over that waterfall into the big pond where the fish are. And so this is usually covered with rocks, of course. But water, what happened, I think the first time when I was losing water was it was actually going out over the top. So I tried to build it up a little bit last year, and I put another liner in. Again, ran the pump for several days without even putting any rocks back. Everything was good. Put the rocks back, everything was good, and had a great 6 months of enjoying the pond this year. But then it started, water started coming out again from someplace, and it's slow, so it's not a big deal. But I have to replenish the water, and it tends to keep getting worse over time, so I end up having to put new water in like almost every day. And you can't just pour water in from the hose because it's got chlorine in it, kills the fish. But that's another plan B story for another day on how I do that. So anyway, what I thought I would do, since I was already cleaning the pond, was get another, replace the the second liner that I put in over the top of the original, again, and try and build it up a little bit more. So my thought was, more garden landscape retaining wall bricks. I just want to build it up, to about the top of here, and then, my thought is that I'm just going to keep this original liner because it's, nice and like folded under, and it's got dirt up there. I don't want to make the problem worse, so I'm just going to put another one on top of it. And I was just going to try and put this new liner in and fold it over, and then bolt on both sides, and then build this wall up just at the front of the waterfall, not all the way down, but just to keep the splash area from going over. And kind of do that on both sides, on the other side too. And so that was the plan. That was I guess plan A. But as usual, once I get started, I get new ideas. So now I'm putting in some it's not really liner. I don't even know what this black thing is for, but it's been repurposed for weed block. Of course, they sell weed block, which looks like that, but you can see through it. Weed block is made so that water, moisture can go through it, and you can still get nutrients to the soil. So unfortunately, nutrients is what weeds like. So they eventually break through that weed block. It helps, but I've never really thought it was good value for the effort. So I don't want any weeds or any flowers here close to the pond, and so I'm putting down something more solid. And you can see here is the bane of my existence, is those little weeds, which actually don't look that much different than those flowers. But anyway, those things, I've been pulling them every day while I work on this Plan B project. So that takes a lot of time, but there's one of them. These are those things that they grow underneath the ground, and they just keep sprouting up. So now I'm gonna build some paths, through the flowers, and then I want kind of a path all along the top of the pond, because I always have to stand here and pull weeds out or do something. So it serves two purposes. One is it gives me a place to walk when I need to do maintenance or anything else to take care of the pond. But then it also is going to keep the weeds back, so that I'm not having to get into the pond to pull weeds. And then also a great spot to fish for koi from here. I got a good vantage point, and I'm casting downhill, so multi-purpose path is what this is. And so that wasn't part of Plan A, which is why this project's taking a while. So I'm pulling these weeds, and then I spray grass and weed killer. So I know it's not good for the economy, but it's not good for the weeds either. And then my plan is to put a path here. So for example, this rock is probably the only thing laying on this black stuff that's a keeper right now, and I've got a bunch of other rocks like that. So I'm going to put steps, and then I'll just fill in between, probably just with mulch. I could either do that or a little pea gravel, but I think I'm just going to do mulch. And then hopefully over the year, when it's time to pull the weeds, I'm only pulling it from in between flowers. So I had also cleared out a path over here too, so I'm gonna put one over there also. Okay, so that was an add-on. So once I started doing that and I got up here to build this wall, now I got to figure out how do I put this new liner over the top of the old one and not have any leak. And this new liner is just going to go from the waterfall down into the pond. That's why I've removed all those. So I'm hoping keeping water out from under the liner here is going to be taken care of by gravity. Okay, and so I ran out of this black stuff, so I got a cheap pond liner. You know, the ones I use for the pond are like I think 42 or 45 mil. This is like a 14.5 mil. So I don't recommend that for a pond liner, but for a weed block, it's, you know, better than that weed block thing laying over here. And so I'm putting this, you know, now around the bottom here, because once again, I don't want to. It was really hard to pull all the weeds from around here. You know, previously we had a bunch of flowers planted really close to this, and they were really pretty, but they were prolific, and you know, they kept growing and getting thicker and closer to this thing every year. And when I got everything out and started looking at this, what I realized was that some of those flowers and those weeds were actually poking holes in this 45 mil liner, which I didn't think, you know, could happen, but well, I was going to try and prove it, but I'm sure everybody believes me. Why would I lie about that, right? Okay, so anyway, plan B evolved. So I took all this off, which I never wanted to do, because the guys who installed this pond are pond installers, and so they know how to seal things and bolt things on, and they got a lot of practical experience. Whereas you know, Plan B engineering is staffed by a lone aerospace engineer who has absolutely no hands-on practical experience. And so yeah, so that's why I didn't want to, you know, tear up anything that had been done before. So once I, you know, got into this, it kept growing. So I didn't envision putting these things all around here, but now I've done that, and I put this all the way around it. And as I was, you know, cleaning all this out and pulling weeds day after day, I kept getting patches of weeds, you know, in these corners and coming out of these crevices in the liner. You know, even some coming up through some of these cracks. So now what I decided to do was I'm actually pouring Quickcrete in behind all this stuff. So again, you're joining in the middle of a movie, because I was not planning to make a video, never have. But in behind here right now is a whole bunch of Quickcrete down there in the bottom of that. And you can see, you know, Quickcrete here. So I'm not talking about mixing Quickcrete with water, you know, to make concrete and pour it in, like someone who actually did have some practical experience would do. I'm just pouring it in dry. A couple of reasons, you know. One, I think dry, it's going to get into all the different little crevices and cracks, and then if it does get moisture in there, then which I know it will, I don't care, you know, how hard it gets or, you know, what happens after that. But while it's in here right now, and while I'm filling this in, I'm filling in the cracks and crevices. Plus, I know that you know, the weeds won't grow in this. It doesn't like the nutrients in Quickcrete. So, you know, that's the plan. And so as this thing kept evolving, I kept thinking that, you know, maybe I should make a video, because this is either going to be a do-it-yourself video with a really novel and innovative idea, and I think the probability of that is really, really low. Or you know, depending on, you know, whether it works or not, this would be a comedy or a tragedy. So I don't know, do people go to YouTube for tragedies? You know, for me, I don't need a tragedy, but if I do want one, I just kind of, you know, look around the yard. But I think for people who do have practical experience, I think this could be a good comedy, because I'm sure that anyone who actually knows how to build a pond, or really how to do any do-it-yourself project, would probably think this is pretty funny and pretty silly. So I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to finish filling in all of this with Quickcrete. Okay, and then I'm going to somehow figure out how to put this new liner in here, and the idea is to fold it over into here, and I'm going to, you know, drill a hole in the liner, and I'm going to put bolts on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to try and figure it out, and then if I'm inclined to do so, I'll show a second part of this video to show what the next steps turned out to be.